Modernism is used to refer to the rejection of conventions such as realism, naturalism, and strict form of the 19th century. Our production will focus on modernists and their views, such as Joseph Conrad, as well as the men of the 1914, Ezra Pound, James Joyce, T.S. Eliot, and how modernist aims view to fight reality and look to recycle and bring back the value in old historical content such as literature and art, as in make it new. Modernism was between the times of 1900 and 1939. It was used to describe the explosion of innovative production of arts, including literature, or avant-garde, experimental and new ideas. The discussion between modernity and modernism is the distinction that these terms usually follow historical, cultural and philosophical ideologies.
Oh, what cruel world is this, where I'm forced to learn harsh realities without an outlet, where men and women die of sickness and accidents at sea every day and our minds are turned in on themselves, miles from civilization. The horror.
The bloody captain didn't strap down that cargo properly. One of them crates damn near crushed me foot.
That's not right. You should write a formal complaint to the company.
Ugh.
See where that gets you.
I think now that books are very near to me. They contain within our very thoughts, our ambitions, illusions, and our fidelity to the truth. Once I thought my purpose as a sailor had been clear, but now I realise only that the writing of literary works will help me understand my present predicament. My first book will follow a sailor at sea who witnesses the death of a man and who overcomes his trauma by writing novels of his own. So what do you think of my new book?
So, you're currently coming to terms with your own traumatic past by telling us a semi-autobiographical literary tale about a fictitious sailor that's also coming to terms with his own traumatic past by writing literature.
All in the hopes that you'll be able to understand your current circumstances better than you would otherwise.
Brilliant, isn't it?
A great crisis is here.
You mean the war?
No, a crisis of representation, of reality. The world is moving too fast to be comprehended by traditional techniques.
And we must seek new methods of representation for this life in this urban, industrial, mass-orientated age.
We, the men of 1914...
I like that!
Thank you. We must take a stance and help usher the dawn of the new Renaissance.
Yes, the next classical period of art.
But how?
We must excavate history, protect it from its bourgeois suffocation.
To soothe the present strain and stress of all assimilation!
We must commune with the great dead poets and the artists of the past.
I think Conrad was onto something. The way forward is the way back.
Tell you what we've got to do, we've got to make it new. Get to work, man.
Poetry should imitate spoken language rather than conventional meters. And we should embrace rhythms of speech, of thought.
Let's explore divide consciousness, objective impersonalities. I'll mask and role-play the voices of a plenty.
I'll present reality by stream of consciousness. See the thoughts of the Bloom and Stephen Daedalus.
Make it new!
Make it new! By it we mean the past.
We've got to make it new!
We'll invent new forms and styles of ferocious complexity. But they'll be met with the public with perplexing difficulty.
From all the critics we're sure to get hostility.
as dislocating language will result in much controversy.
And it's adequate to the experience and trials of modernity. The public can go to the devil!
They'll struggle to comprehend attacks on conventional morality, on a content or a form, or a moral ambiguity.
I think he's talking about your scenes of abortion and sexuality.
Or your masturbation, defecation, and absurd sexual fantasy.
We'll create conventions new to our experience of reality.
And will shock the bourgeoisie right out of their complacency.
My enigmas and my puzzles will keep them busy for a century, in the method, I am sure, to ensure immortality. My undying quest for total insight or epiphany!
Oi! Can you pass me your copy of the Odyssey? It's rife with quotation, allusion, and parody. An artist's self-sacrifice. The extinction of personality. Experiment with free verse in most of my poetry.
So no more rhyming.
Make it new! Make it new!
To preserve the old.
We've got to make it new!
Racist, misogynist, I'd advise to leave out these bits.
One question remains, whatever will you call it?
I was thinking, he does the pieces in different voices.
No offence to Mr. Dickens, but there must be better choices. This episode called Nausicaa, they'll ban it in the US.
But surely they can't ban a person's stream of consciousness.
Who cares? Write your book. Here's a grant to skip the war.
Because
we're the men of 19. One more! Don't say it, just do it.
Fancy a pint?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to stay and do some more.
Dear Elliot, why have you embraced internationalism? You are an American, goddamn right like one. Why do you fail to use language modified to our environment, our own American environment, to express your point of views? And you've become a British citizen. Your poem The Wasteland has totally been given back to the academics. I have experience of many new worlds from my youth in which I want to capture, retelling the American vernacular in which you deny, preferring to bow down to the old world, and in many cases particularly that of the English old world. My point is, why not speak on equal to the reader and to use the language and thought materials of America in expressing your point of view? The Wasteland responds in the most negative fashion. Why so harsh with one side of life's realities? April is the cruelest month. Poof! Why can't you see the joy April brings? The hanged man, feared death by water. The old world is dying. Why can't you fully embrace the new one, clear and free of despair? Stop reading the classics and open your eyes. There is a new world upon us. The artists feel it. Picasso, Matisse, musicians creating new ways of expressing through music. There is a literary canon forming from overseas. Elliot, you returned to the classroom just as we were on the point of an escape, making a new art form. You have set us back 20 years. Our task is breaking through restrictions and generating new growth. Why can't a red wheelbarrow simply be a red wheelbarrow? Kindest regards, Williams.
Dear Williams, old sport, when you ask why have you embraced internationalism, my only response would be, if you only spent time in England you would see how the excellence of English classroom can be. Why can't I be more American? One does not deny that one is eager to absorb the old world and England too, but I became a British citizen because I simply wanted to. I quarrel. The world is vast. We both move forward with the verse for the new world. Let's both do what Pounds implores us to. In response to your brutal analysis of my poem, I feel necessary to critique your own. Lifeless in appearance, sluggish days, spring approaches. You lead your reader to draw to any philosophical conclusions you care to make. I allow the reader to feel, imagine, and make up their own assumptions by symbolism, which you would agree in its entirety of the new world, for the reader to create the narrative themselves. There is nothing criminal with invoking the misery of being learnt in a new world that has forgotten its roots. Culture is dying. Furthermore, I disagree with you in many ways, but in others you are quite right. I do uphold the classics and regularly refer to those who created our pathways in this world. Williams, you need to pay more attention, old sport. If you did, you would realise I've conjured a vast and dissonant range of culture and literature. Keep well. T.S. Eliot.
Frank Kermode coined the term Neomodernism and Paleomodernism to use a rough distinction between two phases of modernism. They were both equally devoted to the same theme. However, paleomodernists sought to rewrite the past, whereas neomodernists typically oppose history. Paleomodernists valued art and saw works as either good or bad. They were typically fascists, as in believing in higher authority, and typically disliked neomodernists and their values. Neomodernists believed that all viewpoints on art were equal, and they were mostly elitist and undemocratic, and preferred a much more realistic sense, whereas paleomodernists fought against realism. Virginia Woolf, as a neo-modernist writer, was highly influenced by her family, and her writing reflects that of modernist values.
Dear Diary, on the 3rd of January 1912, I started keeping a diary. It is so difficult to find a space to become a famous writer when you're a woman in a predominant man's world. When my father passed away in 1905, I was abused by my brothers. Having been part of the Bloomsbury set since 1912 and having a tendency towards rationalism, influenced by Henry Beckham, I have shown particular experimental interest in using narrative time, as well as exploring the parodies within a character conscious, their connection and affection within the period of historical time. In my last book, Between the Acts, I resume and expand on expressing my concerns about how society is changing, reflecting this through both art and sexual elements that could be considered ambiguous and that reflect the space between time and life. To the Lighthouse demonstrates certain literature features that I consider to be important, such as the notion of time and how to construct a scene using three elements, namely the house, the window, and the time. Both the women and the art have a relevant significance within the novel. The modernism within the novel can be found through its atmosphere, its nature, its social criticism, its use of literature devices such as simile and metaphor, and its lack of dialogue. I also express the spirit of modernism through my use of different genres, including theory, biography, essay, and fiction. The self-analysis I learned while battling depression has also enabled me to refer sarcastically to people such as T.C. Eliot and Catherine Mansfield. Through my innovative approach to literature, I bring intellectual thoughts, the anti-materialism social commentary to the period of the First and Second World War.